Okay, so now I'm going to quickly build a web banner ad. And the reason I'm doing this is just to show you some of the features and settings that you'll want to know about before you start working in your imagery. I'll go into a lot more details about how to use these features later in the following chapters. So first of all, I know what size my banner ad is supposed to be. So I'm going to create a new document. And this new document, I'm going to choose that I'm working in the web. And the reason I'm doing this is because there's a possibility that my default size is here already. If I'm comping a website, for instance, I might be setting that to be 1024 by 768, or creating a leaderboard or a wide skyscraper banner ad. My settings might actually be here. If they're not, I can still leave this at web, and that will make sure I'm in the right color mode and the right resolution, and I can type in the size I need. So somebody might have come to me and said, yeah, we need a banner ad, and it has to be 125 pixels by 125 pixels. And the cool thing is, I'm doing these banner ads on a weekly basis. I can save that preset, and I'll just set that at 125 by 125, or I can change the name to whatever I want. I can even tell it that I don't want to save the color mode, which would be kind of crazy right here. We're going to leave all those saved settings checked and click OK. Now, when I click OK, I come up with my image size that is 125 by 125 pixels. I can take the rulers that I brought up in the last example and make sure that I am actually in pixels by right-clicking and changing that to pixels if it's not there already. If you're on the Mac and you don't have a right-clicking mouse, control-click. Okay, so next what I want to do is show you that if I do choose File New again, that from the preset, I will actually see my preset available so that I can use this over and over again. I'm going to cancel this for right now. I'm opening up this window. Now I do have Bridge running in the background, but just in case some of you do not, I am choosing the Launch Bridge button from the control panel at the top. And I'm clicking on this, opening up Bridge, and opening up the image that I'm going to use in my banner ad, which is Guitar 4. Now if you notice, these windows are tabbed. If you don't want to tab your windows, which I don't, I want to arrange these next to each other, I can choose Arrange Documents and put them side by side. Now, next thing I'm going to do, I do want to put this image into this banner ad. This is relatively large right now. Something to consider. Look at the ruler here. It's a little over 1600, it's about 1700 pixels wide. If I'm doing a banner ad that is 200, or lower, I actually set this one to 125, it's going to be huge. So I might as well size it before I drag it over so that I have something a little bit easier to work with. So I have this image active. I just clicked on it. I am choosing image size, and I'm rechecking resample image. If you remember, the resample image was unchecked when I was doing print. In this case, I do want to take the size down. Now keep this in mind. The top section is for those of you working on-screen presentations, web, interactive, PowerPoint presentations. The bottom section is for those of you working in print. There is no resolution on the screen. There's pixels and pixels only. So if you look at the top, the width says that this image is 1700 pixels wide. And the height is 2,272. I know I'm trying to cram this into an image area of about 125. Let me change the width to be about 125. And just so that I have a little bit of space, you'll see that the height is adjusted to 167. Maybe I'll just bring this up to 130 so I have a little bit of space to nudge this image around. But by changing that here, and again, ignoring the resolution, I know you're looking at it saying, but it's 180 pixels per inch. Trust me, it is 130 pixels wide. There is no resolution on that screen. Just ignore the bottom, look only at the top. Somebody tells you that they want an image that is 200 pixels wide, you just simply type 200 pixels in that text box at the top. I press OK. I take my move tool and I click and I drag my image over, and voila, look at that, it fits perfectly. Now continuing on, I need to change my color settings because I want to make sure that I am appropriately set up for web internet. So I'm going to go just check that real quick to make sure that I'm in North American web internet. So I'm going under Edit, Color Settings, checking to make sure if you're not at North American web internet, choose this from the settings drop-down menu. Click OK. And now one other thing that you can do as a web designer, I'm working on the Mac. Probably more people are viewing my image on a PC. Notice that I can change my proof setup to be Windows RGB. And you might notice a slight change in your image. I'm going to press Command 0 just to bring this up a little bit. Now, of course, this is at 402%, so it looks a little pixelized right now. But when I press Command Y, Control Y on the PC, I'm not seeing that much of a difference. But do you notice at the top, it says RGB, 8-bit, Windows. So I'm looking at the preview. So in this case, right at this instance, I'm not seeing that much of a change, but I'm going to leave it in the Windows preview because as I add text and other graphics, it'll be critical to know how it's going to appear. And typically, the Windows system is going to present your image a little bit darker than it appears on the Mac. So I am now going to my zoom tool. I'm pressing Z and choosing actual pixels. Now another way I can do this is just by double clicking on my zoom tool. Okay, so this is realistically more the size that it's supposed to be. I'm going to put some type in here. I'm taking my type tool, clicking at the top and typing go. Now it's a little bit large. It's not exactly where I want. If you notice at the top, Photoshop is waiting for me to acknowledge this. I'm going to say no. I'm going to move it first. I can move my text by holding down my Command or Control key, and then I can drag this even though I haven't acknowledged the placement, font size, or color. I'm selecting my text by pressing Command A. And again, here we go with this like reverse thing where I can't really tell whether this is selected or the color looks appropriate or not. So I'm pressing Command H or Control H if you're on the PC. The text is still selected, but I'm not seeing that reverse selection. I click on the color box. My color panel is now showing me colors that might not appear consistently and accurately on the internet. So I'm going to sample. I'm just going to grab this and push this over to the right. I'm taking my eyedropper, which appears automatically, clicking out on the yellow, and that looks like it's okay. Might not be the most attractive, but it is working just fine. I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to go ahead and take my layers panel, grab it by the tab so you can see it, pull it up. And with this layer active, I'm going to check the box saying this is good and add a layer style, which is the drop shadow, again, because it's just not used enough, but helps to see the text a little bit better, and click OK. Now, one thing that you'll want to acknowledge with type is that depending upon the font you have selected and where it's going to be reproduced and the size that it's going to be reproduced at, you might want to change the anti-aliasing. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this. I'm just pressing Command plus. And again, we're looking at this at 300%. One thing you have to be really careful of is that when you're zoomed in on graphics that are going to be used on the internet or on on-screen displays, it's really not going to look that bad. But just to show you the differences in the anti-aliasing, I'm zooming in, and then we'll zoom back to actual pixels, which is a more realistic view of how your graphic will look. So notice at the top, I still have the type tool selected. I have the Go layer selected. Up at the top, I have the Set the Anti-Aliasing Method drop-down menu. And if I choose None, notice that my text is now just ending right at the end of the pixel with no blend into the rest of the pixels in the image. This is important to note because anti-aliasing is turned on in Photoshop so that you don't see the pixels, so they kind of blend in with one another. But sometimes if you're using a particular font, your O's might fill in or your R's might fill in based upon the anti-aliasing method that you've selected. So by using this control panel up here, I can go in and choose Sharp, which is a little bit of anti-aliasing, Crisp, a little bit more, strong, or smooth, which kind of smooths out the edge, but in this case that looks a little blurry. I kind of like the sharp. We'll go with that. But just keep these considerations in mind as you're building graphics. This is less of an issue if you're doing print work, because when you're doing print work, if you were to save the image as a native PSD or an EPS or a PDF, that vector text would be maintained. But when you're creating web work, this is going to be converted into pixels, so you want to make sure that you have the best method selected for the font that you have. Now I'm going to double click on my zoom tool, and I'm now choosing File, Save for the Web and Devices. I will go into more detail about the settings throughout the rest of the chapters, but just so that we have a completed file here, I will set this to be a JPEG. And this is really based upon your preferences of how your image looks. But typically, if you have an image with lots of gradients in it, JPEG is going to be the smarter file format to select because it does support anti-aliasing and those gradients will be smoother. But as soon as you throw text in with a photograph, then you're kind of on the border, because text typically would work out better as a GIF because it gives you the sharper, more defined edges. But I'm going to leave this at JPEG at high. And it is recognizing my image size, which is fine. And then I'm going to press the return key. You can also just click the save button at the bottom. It is saving my image only. I'm going to call this Add and just put it into Chapter 3. Okay, so hopefully that helped you to understand some of the settings that you might want to change if you're working on images for on-screen only.